You know I love me a good international love story. So, when I had the opportunity to chat with Aldo and Kim about their international love connection and Aldo's picking up from the US and moving to the Netherlands so that they could be together, I was hooked. We spent some time chatting about the 10 years that it took for them to create the family that they now have. And you will hear every ounce of love that they have for one another and for their child in this amazing conversation. Welcome to the Becoming Baby Ready podcast, your podcast for queer family planning. My name is Sam, and throughout this podcast, you'll hear me have conversations with professionals who work alongside people who want to start and grow their families, as well as parents of intentionally created families. Everyone I speak to identifies as being part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. This is your opportunity to learn answers to questions you didn't even know you had. Welcome, everyone. Today I am speaking with Kim and Aldo, and they are all the way across the Atlantic Ocean from me. They are in the Netherlands. So welcome to the two of you as your day is winding down. Thank you for taking the time to join me. Would you please tell everyone who you are and about the members of your family?
Sure. Thank you for having us. You want to start?
Thank you for having us. My name is Kim, and we are so happy to have a little girl with us that's almost 2 years old. She is a real Canadian, and since a few days also Dutch.
My name is Aldo. Kim is Dutch, and I'm from the US. When we met in 2011, it was not legal in the US for me as a US citizen to marry a same-sex foreigner. And so that's why I immigrated to the Netherlands in 2013 and have stayed here ever since. So it's been 12 years now. And like Kim said, we've got an almost 2-year-old. We were on a almost 10-year journey to become parents, but we finally made it.
And you have been going nonstop. I've been watching you on social media, and life is never dull for this family of yours.
We enjoy life, certainly, in general, but certainly after working so many years towards having a family, we are so happy that we have our little girl with us now.
Kim is a cancer survivor, and I always say, is infectiously optimistic and positive, which is part of the reason why I married him. So like our rule at home is like, you can always complain, but what's the point, right? And so we always Kim always tries to keep us on the positive. I tend to steer towards the negative at times, and I think that's just part of having grown up in the US. But now that she's here, yeah, we use the social media presence to kind of just spread queer joy, because there's just so much other out there, right? So yeah.
There really is, absolutely. And I love, Kim, that you are so infectiously positive about things. I have a spouse who battled cancer as well, and it really changes your perception on life, and you
It
have to find the
certainly
positive.
does. I agree on that, and you enjoy life so much more. And yeah, the beauty of having a family is, of course, one of the most fantastic things.
Absolutely. Before we started recording, you were telling me that how your social media journey started. And you knew you wanted to become parents, but how did you land yourself in the social media world so that I could find you and see your gorgeous family?
Well, I think to answer that, we have to go back a little bit, right? So we, even on our first date, we talked about like, do you want to be a dad? Yes, yes. Okay, check. We can move on, right?
Right.
We met when we were about 33, and we were both kind of just ready to like settle down, right? We'd been party boys up until then, as you are when you're young, and you should get it out of your system, right? And we naively moved to the Netherlands, thinking that it was the first country that legalized same-sex marriage. And so we naively thought family law would be equally as easy here. We landed here, got married, got the house, got the job. And then when we finally were like, okay, we're grown-ups now, quote unquote, let's get our adoption process going, because that's what we had always talked about with each other, and I think with ourselves.
And then we found out adoption, or at least creating a family, isn't so easy. Not here in the Netherlands, but in general, not in Europe. We know so many people from so many different European countries, and they all deal with likewise situation problems. It's just a little bit different, but Europe can be a little bit an old continent in comparison with the new continent, which are the Americas.
Yeah, so when we submitted our paperwork, when Kim submitted our paperwork, because it was all in Dutch at the time, I spoke very limited Dutch when we were newlyweds. We assumed it was just going to be a couple months, and, we'd go out and get, the baby gear for whatever age we'd get approved for, and, live happily ever after. But then we got a rejection for our application to adopt here in the Netherlands, and we got 3 strikes. One was that we were too old. At the time, we were 37 years old, and the cutoff then was 36. We also got the second strike because Kim is a cancer survivor, and then in the Netherlands, that's an automatic fail. Unless,
at least not in the Netherlands itself, but because they depend for 99% on international adoption.
Right.
And the countries they work with, like Russia, Eastern Europe, all those countries are against LGBT members. So yeah, that was all problem. So they said we can start a process, but we see less than 1% chance that you will be parents. So we'd rather won't start the process because this will be a deception.
Yeah, so that was the third strike, was the LGBT issue, because like Kim said, it international. So that's when we started learning more about our own countries and each other's country, right? And so because she went on to tell us that the largest international adoption supplier is the US. However, the US keeps all of its quote unquote healthy babies for domestic adoption and sends out all its special needs and HIV positive babies for international adoption. So she says you're looking at a price tag of about 80 to 100,000 euro just in paperwork, right? Because you've got to have a legal team here, a legal team there, agency here, agency there, travel back and forth, check all the boxes. And then after you're approved, you're going to get a baby with some sort of need, and you better have another wad of cash in your other back pocket to help that baby thrive. And we just looked at each other. We're like, who the hell has that kind of money? We don't, right?
Yeah.
And so she says, well, Aldo, you're a US citizen. Why don't you just apply for adoption in the US? Because then you would qualify for all the quote unquote healthy babies, right? And so my mom was still alive back then. So in one of our trips back to the West Coast, we went and interviewed at 3 different adoption agencies, right? In California. And all 3 said the same thing. They're like, oh, you guys are old? No problem. Oh, you're a cancer survivor? No problem. Oh, you guys are queer? No problem. However, you have to show full-time residency and full-time employment here in the US and any state in the US for the duration of your paperwork. And we were like, right?
Which is logical. Those are the international adoption rules. But if for us, we didn't knew that then yet, so we had to figure it out. And
so I freaked out on you, remember?
Yeah, and then we started to look into other possibilities. Another possibility was co-parenting. So having a family with another single or, for example, lesbian couple. But we have worked on that for 2 years, and
Yeah.
it didn't work out. And so then Aldo was
So
afraid to look at different things.
yeah, I kind of freaked out on Kim when the adoption thing didn't work out because I said, well, you've got 6 months to figure something out if we're going to stay in your country. If not, I'm moving back home because I can be a single dad in California. And I want to be someone's dad versus someone's husband more so, right? So that's when you freaked out and he got online and he found these queer organizations here in the Netherlands that do these matching, kind of like
Speed
speed
dating.
dating, right? For the idea of co-parenting, like Kim said. So we started going to all their workshops. It was like monthly workshops, and they taught you all about like, the law frameworks and, the different options and the different structures that queer people have used in the past in the Netherlands to create their families. Mind you, it was all in Dutch, so it was like a crash course in like
legalese, right? Too.
And so that's when that's where we learned about co-parenting, like Kim said. And so we assumed we were going to be meeting a lesbian couple, right? And so I made Kim sit through like all of my favorite lesbian movies, like Bound and, like whatnot. And I'm like, we have to have talking points, right? Because we're going to like meet these lesbians and we've got to like speak their language, right? And Kim was like, God, I don't want to watch this stuff. I'm like, do you want a baby or not, right?
He didn't drag you to Dinah Shore. I think you should feel happy.
Yeah, and so we show up to our speed date, and they separated us by zip code because obviously the idea is that the kid should be able to grow up walking from one home to the other or riding their bike from one home to the other, right?
Yeah.
And so there were about, I don't know, 8 or 9 women in our little cohort, and every single one was heterosexual and pushing 40 and talked about feeling like their time clock was ticking. And so it was now or never. And that's why they were there.
And one saying, okay, I'm doing this to make my boyfriend
jealous,
and then he would leave his wife and he would finally come and live with
like
me,
all sorts of crazy stories, backstories we heard. And we had agreed on these little like symbol system, right? Because obviously, we're in front of these people. So we're like, okay, if you like her, draw this little symbol on your piece of paper and the other one. If you don't like her, draw that other one, right? If it's a maybe, it's this other symbol. So yeah, our first question was like, why do you want to be a mom? And it was like, crazy story after crazy story. But yeah, that one took the cake where that woman, and in one sense, like, we were like grateful that she was so open and direct because,
Sure.
we didn't spend more than the 5 minutes we spent with her. But we didn't meet anyone at that speed dating thing, but we started posting ads on the website of that organization. Yeah. And we started dating. They call it dating, right? Because you're literally going out on first dates with these random strangers to see if you vibe with them, right?
But the strange thing is, the first meeting, you're already talking about the deepest feelings.
Sure.
Yeah. And so through that, we met somebody that we really connected with. And we were totally naive and totally green on this whole parenting journey. So we didn't realize that spending 2 years with her trying to get pregnant was probably too long when we were all pushing 40, right?
Yeah.
So we did 9 rounds of IUI with her and 1 round of IVF, and during those 2 years. And nothing worked. And so after I think it was like after the first failed IVF, the doctor was like, we were all turning 40 that year, right? Because it was a 2-year journey we were on together. So her doctor was like, okay, time out. You're about to turn 40 this month. She says to her, so boys, I want you to give her some space. She's going to go out and celebrate with her girlfriends. We'll reconvene in a month. And then we'll try again with another one, of your little like embryos. Because we had like, I don't know, 3 or 4 embryos created. And so we were like, okay, cool. Like, happy birthday. Like, we'll see you next month. And so we go our merry way and she goes her merry way. And the ex-boyfriend calls her up for her to wish her a happy birthday, and they hook up, and she gets pregnant.
And she was full of hormones.
Right, because she'd been pumped full of, hormones for 10 months.
Sure.
But like her body was primed, right? And so then we get an email saying like, hey guys, sorry, but I got pregnant and we're getting back together and I'm out, right? And
I think it wasn't even an email, it was a text message.
Was it WhatsApp? I don't know.
360 signs.
Yeah. So we were very brokenhearted, to say the least, right?
Of course.
And obviously, as her friends, you develop a very strong friendship with people, like, because you're so intimate, right? Literally.
Yeah.
And so as her prospective co-parents, we were happy for her because that's what she wanted, right? She wanted partnership and she wanted to build a family with a partner. And we were her plan B, right? But as her prospective co-parents that had been like through hell with her and back for 2 years, we felt like, the way she went about ditching us was just very cold. And we were like, the least we deserve is a face-to-face conversation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you stay in contact with her at all anymore?
No, because like
it's too painful, I'm sure.
It was it was like the loss of trust,
Fair.
And the boyfriend started emailing us and kind of just, being like a, dude, and we were like, this is too much drama. Like the universe is clearly telling us we were on the wrong path and now it's time to regroup.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of drove us to surrogacy, which was our very last resort. Because at the time we felt very uneasy about surrogacy, right?
And we thought there are enough children on the world that need a warm and caring home to grow up.
Yeah. And so we felt like, okay, well, we've tried every other road. This is the last one. So let's look into it. And so we started attending workshops and seminars to learn all about the world of surrogacy and the different models that are offered in different countries.
It was interesting for us because we had sort of horror ideas about surrogacy when seeing images of the past, how it was done in
different
Asia and all that.
Women having, their human rights violated. And we were like, ew.
Feeling right at all. We don't want to do this at all. Then we had the American system. We thought it
was too commercial.
Commercial, so that didn't work either.
And so one of the seminars we went to, that they had a little presentation on Canada, and we were like, ooh, like this sounds like the altruistic system and framework in Canada just kind of lined up more with our with our morals and our values, right? And so we started looking into that. And then just through friends of friends, we met somebody that was looking to be a surrogate in the UK, of all places. And so then we put Canada on hold and we focused on the UK because we were like, wow, there was this woman there that was a friend of our friends. She'd been...
So we went we started the process. We were so far that in the clinic, they were already testing our material, etc.
Yeah.
But then the lawyers found out, oh, there is a problem. This system is really made for internal IVF services, and you don't live in the UK, neither do you live in the British Commonwealth. So that is a no-no.
So the baby can't exit with you, basically, she says. And so she hired, I don't know, like barristers,
solicitors, and then they went to barrister, and the barrister said, oh, this will be a high court thing, but there is a Brexit going on now, so the high court will probably not have time for you the coming years.
So basically our story is like a slew of like don't do's. But yeah,
Right.
our lawyer luckily was very upfront with us in Bristol in the UK, and she says, "Look, I'm happy to keep taking your money, but this is going to be a very long battle that you're probably going to end up losing. So I recommend that you just look into Canada because their system is really like designed for international surrogacy."
Right.
And so,
And she said a very important thing for us, like you already said, it comes very much near our values,
yeah,
and
so
that's important
she says
in this
Canada basically
process.
took the altruistic model from the UK, but made it better, right? Opened it up to the international market, worked out some of the kinks that we're still figuring out here in the UK. She says, I think it might be better for you guys to go. And so then COVID hit, right? It was lockdown, and we were like, we'd been like on the go on this baby journey. And so we felt like, okay, we can't just sit down at home and not work on our baby project. Like we're going to just go crazy. Right. And so that's when our nephews and nieces, who are obviously younger than us, and were like, and our friend Johnny was also on TikTok. Everybody was like, if you're looking for a donor, an egg donor, and a surrogate, you guys need to get off of Facebook because that's just for you old people. You need to get on different platforms where younger women are, like Instagram and TikTok, because that's where they're going to find you. But being that like Facebook was like the last platform we'd both been using, we were like, I don't want to have to learn something new. And they were all very honest. They just were like, do you want a baby or not?
Thought, okay, we really want to be parents. And then we thought we also find this system, the Canadian system, so beautiful that the women that want to help you are in charge, and you have to get in their field
radar.
of on the radar.
Yeah.
So then we thought, okay, we can do it in the old-fashioned way of writing an article or an whatever, but it's better to make funny videos and let our families give reviews and this and that. That makes it much more interesting and much shorter, easier to reach, and
to digest.
In our case, it's worked out extremely well.
Yeah, I mean, we were very lucky. Like I said, we were new to surrogacy and we were new to TikTok. So I honestly thought I taught myself how to use it from, Yahoo, or what is it? YouTube.
Right. Yahoo's. We're trying not to make people think that we're old, right?
Yahoo. So yeah, I honestly thought it wouldn't be more than like 20 videos and then that account would get closed, right? I figured, we're gonna like match and it'll be history. But women, prospective donors and prospective surrogates were just like reaching out to us like right, left, and center. So much so that we had to create an Excel spreadsheet, to make appointments, to do this, to Zoom calls, so that they could meet us, we could meet them, see if there was a click. And we met women from literally all over Canada. All of them wanted to do it out of the kindness of their hearts, obviously, but like some hadn't talked to their partners about it yet. And we were like, oh, that's kind of like the first step, probably.
Yes, please.
Others didn't, pass, because they make both parties go through a field of questionnaires and medical and psych evals, right? And so some folks didn't pass certain things. And we just started internet dating, essentially, all these strangers, right? To see who we matched with.
And it was very interesting. And in our case, we found that very important, that the match really worked out. because you want to be extremely open.
Right.
With the idea that is probably the best for the child.
Yeah.
If everything is completely open, everything is clear, when they want, they can read exactly how everything went, including all the dates, addresses of everyone, etc.
We wanted to leave a very clear paper trail for our kid,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
And that worked out because at the moment, we know old people personally, and we've
Right.
met them several times, and we met their family and their friends and their children and all those things.
Yeah,
and we
so
keep in touch. So, and that's therefore to make that happen, you really want that it works.
yeah. I mean, we
match.
hired a team in Canada to help us and represent us, right? So we had a clinic that obviously took care of all the medical stuff. We had two different agencies, one to help us match and deal with like all the paperwork for the egg donor, a separate agency to do the same with our potential surrogate. We took out international health insurance. We hired a legal team in Canada. We had a legal team here to make sure, right, that all the T's were crossed and all the I's were dotted. And we weren't very picky, I don't think, in terms of what we were looking for both our donor. We just wanted somebody that was going to be willing and able to have an open an open dialogue and an open a real relationship with us.
Right.
Sorry to interrupt you, but what you mentioned, and you said that's automatic. We got our legal team here, and then we got our legal team overseas in Canada. But that is a thing that a lot of potential parents forget. You really have to make sure that the legal framework in your own country is, you have to work on that first, and then look in Canada, because you're Dutch lawyer or French or German or which country you live, they have to indicate, okay, it can happen, but only in this and this way, because that is the thing. The difference between countries is so big that those are small lines that will work, and you have to follow exactly the rules of those lawyers to let it happen,
or be willing to pay the consequences, right?
Yeah.
And they're big consequences. Like they're not little consequences, right? But you're absolutely right. And you think, okay, well, the baby's being born in Canada, so it's really Canadian lawyers that we need to employ. But like you say, Kim, you also have to think about when we bring this baby back to the Netherlands, we need to be able to bring this baby back to the Netherlands for one thing, and we want her to be ours. We want the Dutch government to recognize she's ours.
Absolutely.
Hold on for just a moment. We'll be right back.
This episode is proudly sponsored by Limitless Slides, the only performance slide built for mindset, comfort, and recovery. As you know, being two moms, we're always on our feet. Limitless Slides helps us stay grounded in who we are while we're embracing our comfort. They're our daily reset, a reminder of our worth, and what we're grateful for. Grab your own pair at limitlessslides.com and take 30% off with the code 2MOMEDIT.
Yeah, so when we were trying to match with our egg donor, the agency was like, well, what are you looking for? And we were like, we want somebody who's healthy and happy. And they were like, what else? And we were like, I don't know, like that she wants to have communication with us and meet our kids someday. They were like, what else? And we were like, that's about it. And they were like, really? And we were like, yeah, like what else should we be asking for? And they were like, well, like some couples, have preferences on hair color, eye color, height, or educational level. And we were like, we don't care about that, like let her be a happy, healthy person, and we'll let nature take care of the rest, basically. And so they were like, oh my God, you two are going to be the easiest people to match. And so we matched with Alyssa is her name, our egg donor. She's lovely. We're still in touch with her today.
And does
And
Alyssa have kids of her own?
no,
That's not,
Alyssa,
that part's the piece that many people don't know. Egg donors, while surrogates need to have birthed the child before, egg donors don't need to have had a child themselves.
Exactly, but it's important, of course, for the egg donors to understand that, you have a limited amount of eggs, and if you give them away, you don't have
you may
any
not
more
have any for
left
yourself.
to have to create your own family. So
Yeah.
one has to be careful.
Alyssa, I forget if she referred to herself like this or if it was her doctor at or I guess our doctor at the fertility center. But an ovary achiever.
There you go.
Because she is donated to about 9 different gay couples at this point.
Oh, wow.
And they've been healthy donations. And so, yeah, our baby is one of 4 now that are born from all her donations. And so we're hoping at some point to meet the other, or at least have contact with the other dads. But so far, nobody has taken us up on our offer. But yeah, so we met and matched with her, and a couple months later, I feel like it was all very fast in comparison to like the lead up to Canada. Canada went super fast at the time. I don't know what the market is like now, but this is what 2020, right? 2020, 2022, something like that. I don't know.
Something like that.
It went super fast. And then it was our surrogate's baby girl, because like you said, they advise surrogates to have ideally completed their own families before they go into surrogacy, because if you've ever gone through a pregnancy or know someone who has, you know that there's an array of anything that can happen, right?
Right.
And so you don't want to obviously prohibit somebody from continuing her family by helping you create yours, right?
Right.
And so Amanda was done having her own kids. She had 3 kids. And her story was really beautiful. Her sister was going through a medical issue that was preventing her from staying pregnant. She kept having miscarriages. And so Amanda first, thought, okay, well, I'll be your surrogate to her sister, right?
Mm-hmm.
She started all the paperwork and all the screenings and whatnot. And while she was busy going through all the screenings, the sister gets pregnant again.
Oh.
And this time the pregnancy took.
Oh.
And so her sister had a happily ever after. But Amanda still had that, gnawing at her heart, because she was just like, okay, well, now like I'm so much closer to helping somebody. Like now I want to go through with it. And so she set her mind on helping a same-sex couple. And it was her, I think her kid was about, I don't know, her kid was a toddler, maybe like 2 or 3 years old at the time. Got a hold of mom's phone, got a hold of mom's TikTok, and somehow landed on our video and had our little like intro video on repeat. And so when Amanda came and grabbed the phone, that's how she noticed us. So it was like, butterfly effect. I don't know.
Yeah, it's, whether you believe in fate or not, that feels fairly fated.
Yeah. And so she reaches out to us, and it turns out that she had already signed up for an agency, our surrogacy agency, and she had seen our saga of a, essay description, because they make you type up, right? And she was just like, oh, this is the couple that I read about. But like now seeing them interact with the camera and hearing them and like, seeing the human being, like all alarms went off. And that's when she wrote to us, remember?
And that really indicates what you mentioned at the beginning, that it really makes a difference how you sort of
market
yourself.
Sure.
Because it's true. That's what we always say to all intended parents, all IPs out there, is like, it's like it or not, it's like dating, right? So like, if you're looking for a partner, you're marketing yourself on these apps or however, even going to a bar, you're the way you're presenting yourself, right? There's competition out there, right?
Sure.
So we just wanted to try to like, showcase our silliness, our quirks,
Our humor,
humor.
our family.
And also like, the fact that we're real, like sometimes, we're married people, like sometimes we're annoyed with each other and sometimes are, right? And that's normal and it happens.
It really is.
So yeah, that's how we started on TikTok. And then once we matched, we thought, okay, well, this is an easy way to stay in touch with both Alyssa and Amanda, so that they could continue getting to know us via our TikToks, right?
Sure.
And so that's why we continued, publishing or uploading or whatever it's called, posting, right? Posting. And then it just kind of became habit, right? And then we realized, oh, wait, like this is a digital diary that we're creating to leave behind for our kid.
Yeah.
So that's how we use it now, is to just, tell the story, through the camera so that when they're older, hopefully this platform still exists.
Yeah, fair. That's true. That makes sense.
Or at least start charging and downloading a lot of those videos.
Membership or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, we got pregnant. It was like Christmas Eve, I think, when it was like when neither of us are Christian and we don't do Christmas, but that Christmas was very special.
You did that Christmas, right? A lot to be thankful for. Yeah.
Especially because, like it was like almost 10 years, right? Until we had different pregnancies along the way, obviously, but for one reason or another, they wouldn't stick. And I like the way our doctor at our fertility clinic broke it down to us, because obviously, each time you do an embryo transfer, you put all your hopes in all your wishes, right? And we allowed ourselves to even like, come up with names and, middle names and like the whole thing, right?
I believe I try to keep you away from that.
You tried. But if you're honest, like once a baby was born, you had little gifts for them tucked away all over the house. That
yeah, but that's another
we had both been storing little onesies and things all around the house throughout the years. So yeah, you do these embryo transfers, and sometimes they take and sometimes they don't. And so the doctor, in trying to like, I think help us understand and mend our broken hearts, he says, look, the lab and my team can only do the science part of it, right? He says, we've got the science down pat. He's like, I know my job. The lab technicians know their job. No question there. What the humans don't yet understand is the magic that happens inside the human body as to why some embryos take and develop and flourish and thrive and become life, and others don't. Like he says, that is the miracle of life, and that there's no.
And then especially the body of a woman,
right?
That is fantastic.
Because he says, well, you're like it. Traditional quote unquote pregnancies are a miracle in themselves. Sure. But surrogacy, especially third party surrogacy, he says, you've got the DNA of the egg donor, you've got the DNA of one of you as the sperm donor, and then you're putting those two foreign bodies into a third person being the surrogate, right?
Yes.
So the body's like, what the hell? Like, who are these intruders? Like, get rid, protect.
Exactly. Yes.
Send the white blood cells, right? Because it's just evolution, right? That's how we're still here. And so that was very helpful. I'll admit I tend to be like more of the crybaby between the two of us, and so every time we lost a pregnancy, those were called chemical pregnancies, they call them.
Yep.
When they transfer the embryo, right? And sometimes it just feels like you're pregnant for the surrogate and they are like, oh, they'll send you that message of like, oh, I did I forget what the over-the-counter tests are called.
Just a pregnancy test, yeah.
First 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But
My
we
boobs are
always had to
hurting.
say,
Like this happens at all my
wait till
pregnancies,
we
right?
go to the doctor and after real test.
Like, I don't need to hear from the doctor. I'm pregnant. I'm telling you I'm pregnant. And you're like, yay, right? And then they go to the doctor and they're like, nope, false pregnancy. Or sometimes, the embryo will like, be stuck somewhere it shouldn't be, and the body rejects it because it's not in the womb. But yeah, I mean, it was a very educational journey in and of itself. Being that we're two men and two gay men at that, we knew very little about female anatomy and the female reproductive system. And
that makes sense.
We obviously don't know everything still, and we'll never know everything because we don't have your bodies, and the internet can only tell you so much, right?
You're going to learn a lot more though, raising a daughter.
Yeah. But we watched all sorts of YouTubes, and we went to all sorts of seminars to learn about, the menstrual cycle, and to learn, because we figured, if somebody's going to be carrying our child, the least we can do is try to empathize, right?
That makes sense.
What her body's going through, and, why she may be feeling X, Y, or Z, right?
Yeah. And that's the same thing as with our daughter. We have to help her in the future, explaining a lot of things.
Everything from hygiene to development to all of it, right?
Yeah, you need to know for sure.
Yeah. And so when we got the pregnancy results, and the betas is what they call them. So it's like a blood test that they do to see the amount of hormones.
The HCG, yep, the hormone.
And so they want a baseline for the first pregnancy test the fertility centers do,
and then a few days later they do one,
and they want the numbers to like double at least, right? Each time, and so I think it was like a 207 or something, the first one, which was like a really strong number, right? Because they want you to be like at 3 digits at least to be a quote unquote viable, right, pregnancy. And I say all this just in case there are, intended
anybody's listening that doesn't know, for sure.
And so yeah, the numbers kept more than doubling and tripling. And so we were like, yes, that New Year's, we were like, bring out the fucking champagne, excuse me. Bring out the champagne.
It's all good.
We were like, we're here. And by then, both of us had lost our moms. So both grandmas were gone, and we were down to one opa, which is grandpa in Dutch, right? And so Kim's dad. And so the three of us were like, holy mollies. And so, yeah, Kim's mom was dying at the time when we were pregnant, and she missed her granddaughter just by a few months. Just a few months. But yeah, she recorded some TikToks even, like when we were like trying to match. And so our kid is going to have, little videos.
I love that.
Of her grandparents. So she will hopefully know how wanted and welcomed into our lives and our families she was and is. And so we wanted to do something extra special for our donor and our surrogate when she was born. And so we thought, okay, why don't we come up with a name that represents all 4 of our names, right? And that's when the jigsaw puzzle started, and actually made a TikTok about that. So we were like trying to like, put all the different letters together to come up with a name, and Kim actually found it. You came up with it one day, and I was like, I love it. So it's a 4-letter name, and it's got a letter from each of our names in it. So yeah.
That's pretty beautiful to put all of you together like that, right?
Hopefully she will appreciate it when she's older. But like the intention was to, like Kim said, for her to have a very clear picture of how she came to be.
Yeah. And there will be times when she does fully appreciate it, but as with all children and every set of parents, there'll be times when she doesn't appreciate it either. And that's just parenting, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we're still new to the job. We're what, 20, she's 22. She's going to be 22 months. No, 23 months.
Almost 23 months.
Yeah, almost 23 months in a couple weeks. So we almost have a 2-year-old, which is wild. And we always say to IPs, especially, you know, the guys, it's like, do it as soon as you can because we're almost 50 and oh my God.
We waited too long.
It's not that we waited. We tried for 10 years.
You tried.
Different possibilities, but the thing is that when you want to be a parent and you have to deal with surrogacy, then when you live in Europe, it will be extremely expensive.
Yep.
Canada is extremely expensive, but the US will be even more.
Yeah.
If you want to go for that, because what I already said, ethically, you might not want to, like us. But yeah, it costs a lot of money, and yeah, that is a difficulty certainly when we see now 29-year-old gay couples that start to look around. Okay, we want to be parents. We have other straight couples nearby us that start with children now, and yeah, we want to do that too. Well, as 29-year-olds, you don't have a few €100,000
Most people don't
in your savings accounts yet.
No.
So yeah.
But at the same time, it's such a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful feeling whenever we do meet or speak with those IPs or queer newlyweds that are, like you said, you know, 29, 27. And they're like, yeah, we're married. We bought the house. We've got our career under control. And we're like, oh, my effing God. Like when I was your age, it wasn't even legal for us to be married, you know, like, and how beautiful that, you know, we get to see that change already in society.
That is why we also are very happy to help new people that want to be are still intended parents because we think, okay, previous generations, they worked for us.
Exactly.
In a sense, they made it possible for us that we can be gay, that we can get married, that we can live without discrimination,
be employed, have housing, health insurance, right?
And then the next step is, okay, you want to create a family. And so, yeah, we also have to fight for that. And clearly, we are in that situation now. And therefore, we have to help other people.
That's exactly what we always say to younger queers that we talk to, because, you know, we'll hear a lot of gripes of like, oh, it's so discriminatory. These prices are outrageous. You know, straight people don't have to do it. And we're like, you're not wrong, but you can deal with it however you want. The way we choose to deal with it is, like Kim said, it's like, it's a privilege for us to carry this cross, so to speak, right? Previous generations have done everything that Kim just said, right? And so maybe it's up to our generation to make creating families a little easier for future queer generations, right? So we're hopefully going to work out all the kinks with all the legalese that is not, you know, up to date currently speaking, or, you know, what have yous, right? Issues with insurance companies that discriminate or whatever it is, right? Maybe choose to see it that way. And that way it's our little nugget that we leave behind in queer history, you know, that our generation leaves behind anyway.
And we see that it is so beautiful arranged in Canada, and the government is doing such an amazing job in that aspect. But when you live in another country, you have to deal with that other country and the links between countries and making things happen, and that can be so extremely complicated
and time consuming and expensive. So yeah, when we arrived, our kid was born in Oshawa.
Okay. Okay. I was gonna ask what neighborhood or area you were working in.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Oshawa
So
was
in the
born in
greater,
Oshawa,
yeah,
the
greater
GTA. Yeah.
Toronto area.
Yeah, we went to stay in the GTA, and we got a very cute little Airbnb in, what was it called, that area?
Port Perry.
Port Perry.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, it was such a cute little town. So yeah, we were there for 6 weeks.
Nice.
It was like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Because you have to be there, 2 weeks before the birth, because babies come when babies want to come, not when the doctors say, right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
you, as the parents, have to be there in case they come early, because surrogates did their job and did their duty at that point when they deliver, and they're like, here's your baby, right?
So you make the decisions
So
now.
take care of it. Yeah. And so, we were very hands-on, and we said to Amanda, do you want us to have our own room in the hospital, or whatever you want, we'll do. And so she wanted a shared room. They brought in some extra beds, and Kim and I had our beds, and she had a bed across the room from us. And every time the nurses would come in, to do the vitals checks or whatnot, they would say, "So mom, blah, blah." She'd be like, "No, no, 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 no. I'm not mom. That's mom and dad over there. You talk to them. I did my job. Let me sleep."
Yeah,
Ask them all the questions,
that's
right?
right.
So yeah, it was because we get that question a lot of like, "Oh my God, were you ever worried that the surrogate would want to keep your babies?" We're like, well, no, this is why we only wanted to work in a country that had the laws.
And the Canadian system is so beautiful in that way. And I must say, in the hospital where our daughter was born, there's never
Oh,
a surrogate baby
She was the
before.
first, yeah.
So they were a little bit afraid. Only at the last moment, they organized a video meeting to say, "Oh yeah, now should we do this and this?" With a handbook of the Canadian government next to them to say, "Oh, we have to do it like this." But is that possible? And well, it was very nice.
It was very cute.
yeah.
Yeah, and so we again naively thought that coming home would be a breeze, with the baby, right? But then we just kind of came into a firestorm of more legal obstacles, as to
Really?
that in the Netherlands, that we just conquered last week. We finally are done with it. 20, what was it? 20, I keep
Yeah, she's
22,
almost 2 now,
22
so,
months
yeah.
into it. So yeah, it turns out like I'm not Dutch, all right? And so like I'm
Right.
trying simultaneously learn all like about the Dutch laws as they pertain to parents.
Right.
And as are you, because obviously you're a new dad as well, right? Even though you're Dutch. But it turns out our municipality where we live is one of the most conservatives.
Oh,
in
okay.
the country.
Yeah.
And so
And it's not in our case a religious one, but it is because the government is here and it's all very serious in the embassies, and well,
it's very by the book.
They make it really by the book. And in the book, surrogacy or IVF even is not existing yet.
Yeah.
Because the rules regarding parenting haven't been changed in the last 60 or 70 years.
Yeah.
And that makes it very complicated. So no one forbids anything, but also no one dares to say yes and give a passport or inscribe someone in so that was a big problem. And then the only way out is a judge, because the judge in the Netherlands, then the situation is that the judge will overrule that and say, okay, how is the process in Canada? How did it go? This and that, and the court order of my colleague in Toronto, and this and that, and then the Dutch judge will say, okay, now I decide and declare that in 3 months the municipality has to do this, and then it's almost all over. Then papers have to be changed again in Canada. But okay, then it's over. But that took almost 2 years, and only because some very maybe homophobe or very
intolerant. I don't know.
Yeah, very people that really following the book have to file file those papers, and they refuse to because they say that's not exactly how it should be done because the IVF is not in the book yet. So yeah, that's we are dealing with that, but also so many other couples. And then our situation went further because in the Netherlands, there is one clause that says a man can recognize other single woman that they have made pregnant. And that was the case in our situation. And then, according to law, that baby should be from birth be Dutch, but they refused to. And the court had to decide, okay, that was completely wrong, and that should have been done already 2 years ago, which hadn't been done.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, so since she arrived, she'd been registered as parentless. So neither of us were attached to her. So you can imagine how stressful it was, even just like riding our bikes to and from home and work, right? Because if we're like, if we get hit by a car, like what happens to her?
Well, that was going to be my question then. I mean,
There are no
things now
parents.
being wrapped up, maybe it's less stressful, but in that limbo land, I mean, what would have happened?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Great
And
question.
we got so far that because the municipality, in our case in the Netherlands, the situation is the municipality is responsible putting information that comes in from overseas in the system. If they do it wrong or they refuse to do that, then other institutions of the Dutch government can go wrong based on the primary wrong decision of the municipality. So we got in problems with the Dutch immigration services that was sending us letters that she had to be sent back to Canada.
We wanted to deport her. Yeah, it was
a 2-year-old, not even 2-year-old.
She was 6 months old when we got a deportation notice, and we were like, "What the hell? Like, she has no family in Canada."
Yeah.
They're like, "Well, we don't care. She can't wait in the Netherlands for the court order. She has to go back to Canada." And so then we had to hire another lawyer, an immigration specialist lawyer, to. Yeah, it was
to deal with that.
Dealing with the Dutch government has been 10 times more stressful than the 10 years we were trying to get pregnant. You know?
Wow. Well, and you're trying to balance that with having a child in the house.
Yeah, and you know, right, keeping a newborn baby alive, keeping your marriage together while you're half asleep, half the time.
And I must say, what parents normally say is, oh, the first months, the first half year or year
beautiful.
when the baby was there was so fantastic. Well, this is really this stress, etc.
Yeah, we feel like
really
it was
having
time
influence
robbed,
and tempering that joy, and that is really a problem and a shame of governments that do it.
Yeah, and the Dutch government also gives new parents, a lot of subsidies to help you go back to work, for example. So they're
childcare
subsidies. we didn't qualify for any of that because she didn't have parents technically in the system, right? She was parentless. And so Kim had to stop working to stay home with her because we just couldn't afford to pay for the child care and the immigration lawyer and the regular lawyer, right?
Right. Yeah.
Without the subsidies, right? And so like, yeah, everything just kind of snowballed and was just, I don't know, so stressful. But like Kim being Kim, you kept saying like, who cares? She's
She's
here.
here.
They can't take her away from us. And if they want her out of the country, then we'll like go back to Port Perry and become baristas, like, or something, right?
Actually, I actually know a coffee bar where I could probably get you hooked up. So just
Yeah.
saying.
I mean, we loved it there. We did not want to leave. Um, so yeah, I mean, it sucks, but like she's here and we choose to try to always stay positive, like I said earlier. So yeah, in the meantime, we've created a queer families group, for example, on WhatsApp. And we have about
Nice.
130 different families representing every corner of our beautiful rainbow.
All
Because
families with
Well,
children,
no, because
so
there's a lot of
all,
IPs
yeah.
also. There's a lot of
Oh yeah,
IPs
that's true.
Yeah.
in the group. But we got back with the baby and I looked around and I was like, oh my God, we've been trying so hard for 10 years almost to get pregnant that we forgot to create a community for her.
Right. Right. Yes.
And there are groups of plethora of groups that for Dutch speakers, but I'm not native and I didn't want it to feel like homework,
Right.
for
To
me.
hang out with your friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just like, if I have a quick question about like, hey, I don't know, teething or diapers or whatnot, I don't want to have to like use Google Translate on my WhatsApp group, right? And so I
And
looked and looked and looked for an
besides
English
that,
one
this will also be great for
for
this
her to
child
grow up.
later on to grow up with and have play dates with
Kids from
other
other rainbow
children that
families,
also
yeah.
have rainbow parents.
Yeah,
So
so
yeah.
it turns
Sure.
out there was a need out there because like I said, we're about, I think it was like 130 families
Yeah.
or something like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
from
But
all
you
over
have
the
already had
Netherlands.
so many real-time meetings,
Yeah.
and
And some are more active than others, of
Of
course, like in
course.
the WhatsApp group, but we try to schedule at least once a month meetups, where the kids can meet each other and hang out. And most of us that do have kids all kind of come in with that notion of like, I want my kid to grow up knowing other queer families so that they don't feel
Sure.
other,
I,
right?
that's a conversation my wife and I have had for 2 decades. We want our kids to see other families that look like ours. And it's becoming more and more common,
Yeah.
but it's taken time. So good on you for doing the legwork to help it happen. And when you didn't have it automatically happening for you, you said, okay, I'll make it happen then. And you created it.
Yeah, I mean, luckily that's how I'm wired. Kim, you always say like, um, it's kind of like my superpower being that I'm like a shameless American. Like, if I want something done, I'm like, well, no one else is gonna do it. Let me get up and do
Guess
it
I'll do
myself,
it.
right?
Yep.
But yeah, it's been that has been a huge saving grace because even with all this turmoil with the government, like Kim said earlier, sadly, we're not the only family in this predicament. Just finding, a sounding board in your community is just so good for your mental health in those
Absolutely.
moments when you just feel so despaired, right?
Yeah.
So speaking of that, we even have a meeting with a little group of us that have been negatively affected, queer families, with representatives of City Hall to like, start hopefully
Make
advocating for change for future queer families.
good. Good. You make the change where you can and you know that you can. So you take the steps, right? One step at a time.
Absolutely. All you can do is try.
Absolutely. I'm recognizing how late it is for the two of you, and I'm going to let you have some time together before you both go to sleep yourselves. But before I let you go, please tell us all, what is your very, very favorite part of parenting this beautiful wee girl?
Well, that's a very difficult question because there are so many beautiful things.
Mm.
But I think it really an important thing is really changes yourself, your opinion about the world, how you stand in the world. I see it as a new chapter in my life where the most important thing in my life is now that little small creature, and I think it can also make us as a strong couple even stronger and make it a beautiful thing, us three.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that's what I was going to say. The last part is that I've seen our marriage just get stronger through this process. You know, even throughout the 10-year journey, all the ups and downs. Every time you hit I always akin it to like being stuck in a dark hole. I say to IPs, you know, like if you're in a partnership with someone, take turns being in that dark hole, right? Don't both go down there at the same time because it's going to be doubly hard to get out of it. You know,
Right.
just give yourself some time and some grace to be down. And then when your partner's ready, give them that same grace, right?
Yeah.
So I knew I picked a good partner just having lived through those 10 years, but now getting to co-parent with you, I think has been like the best part of now being dads, because we always talked about being parents together, you know, and we almost brought in a third party, you know, as the compromise just to get to our end goal. But I'm glad that the universe made us, you know, reinvent our journey and end up where we are, because I don't know, I love you. That's why.
That's a pretty beautiful way to end the conversation. Thank you both so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the gift that you give the world of yourselves and sharing your story. It's appreciated.
It
Thanks for
was
having
our
us,
pleasure,
Sam.
and thanks for having us.
As a queer individual with colonial lineage, I want to first acknowledge the land upon which I live and work. Being from what is now known as Burlington, Ontario, I recognize the original ancestry of these lands as they span from Lake Ontario to the Niagara Escarpment and beyond. These lands are steeped in Indigenous history that benefits my community every day. The territory is mutually covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy, the Ojibwe, and other allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. I would like to acknowledge that the land on which I stand is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. The land dictates everything about our ways of being. Particularly, the land teaches us about fluidity. Concepts of the binary system and heteropatriarchy were imposed by the colonials who were, at the same time, removing children from their homes, families, and all that was familiar to them. These same children were divided by the only two prescribed binaries recognized by the settlers, and they were forced to conform to a performative, gendered falsehood. The land doesn't operate under binary thinking. It is diverse, complex, and unpredictable at times. Rather, the land holds us and all of our remarkable pasts and identities. Every organism and spirit has a purpose. It is from this understanding that I strive to live and grow. Thank you for joining me today on the Becoming Baby Ready podcast. If you have a story that you'd like to share, or you know someone who might, if you're a professional who works in the capacity of helping people start and grow their families, and you identify as being a part of the 2S LGBTQIA plus community yourself, then please don't hesitate to reach out. We always have room for more stories to share, and there's always more learning to do.